Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and I have something very exciting to announce today. As you know, the Pokemon Go World Championships is taking place in 3 weeks' time in San Francisco, California, and I can now confirm that I'm going to be there live in person as one of the official commentators for the event. This is an absolute dream come true and an incredible honor, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that it is the best possible broadcast as we crown the new Pokemon Go World Champion. So today, to celebrate getting to cast this year's Worlds, I'm going to run a Pokemon that has won each of the past 2 World Championships, and that is Shadow Annihilate. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and we pick up a very bad lead in the first match, Shadow Annihilate into Charjabug. Unfortunately, Charjabug beats this entire team, so this is not a good Pokemon for me to encounter. I am running my bulk weight Annihilate because I do believe that having bulk on Annihilate rather than attack is better in this meta. A bulk weighted Shadow Annihilate can actually win the even shield matchups against Shadow Kanto Ninetales, and that is a very big meta matchup to win. I end up banking energy, pivoting into Tinkaton. My opponent threw an X-Scissor anticipating that I would catch on something that resisted electric, but I did not, as I don't have an electric resist on this team. My opponent now reveals they're running an incredibly spicy Pokemon, as in comes Shadow Gliscor. Gliscor lands the Sand Tomb, I build up a ton of energy, bait with a Bulldoze, and I'm able to get the shield. That's a very big bait to get, because now I have a ton of residual energy on Tink. They fire off the Sand Tomb, I put up the shield, I can full send Gigaton to guarantee the knockout or the final shield, and now with the shield advantage, it's time to send in Fearow. Fearow will win the CMP tie, but my opponent makes an amazing catch. They opt out, they catch the Drill Peck out of the Charjabug, and now I could be in quite a lot of trouble. They still have an Acrobatics loaded on the Gliscor. Now, Gliscor is very likely to go for the Sand Tomb bait, but I cannot let the Acrobatics land. This is my only healthy Pokemon. So I put up the shield. It is going to be the Sand Tomb bait, but I can overfarm by 1, CMP tied to the Acrobatics, and this is finally going to knock out the Gliscor. In the back is Pangoro. This game is over. Even if Pangoro's CMP tied there, I can always make an Ice Punch on the Annihilate, and I'm not far off a Gigaton on the Tink. So unfortunately, even though I didn't have a lot of HP remaining, I had energy on all of my Pokemon. We get a great lead in the next match, Annihilate into Impolon. My opponent save switches into the non-Shadow Kanto Ninetales, and this is actually a worse matchup for Shadow Annihilate than the Shadow Kanto Ninetales. Because I do significantly more counter damage onto the Shadow, so as long as you have a bulk weight Shadow Annihilate, you should just win all evens against the Shadow. But against the regular, unfortunately, your counters just don't hit as hard, and you can see I'm actually losing this matchup. This matchup is not working out amazingly for me. I decide that I will put up the shield, at the very least guarantee the knockout or the final protect shield. My opponent is going to let that go, and get a big farm down with Altaria. This game could get a little bit scary, however, I'm expecting my opponent is going to immediately switch into Empoleon after the Flamethrower. So, I cue the switch, I set in the Fearow, it's a simul switch, and getting that call right instantly wins the game for me on the spot. The reason being is that Fearow and Empoleon have identical pacing, but Fearow wins charge stack priority. If my opponent was ahead by even one singular turn, they would outpace, knock me out with the Hydro Cannon, and I would lose the game. But instead, by calling when they'd make the switch, we're not behind. We can CMP tie them, KO them with the Drill Run, and end the game on the spot. Switch timer comes up, I can bank energy, send in the Tinkaton, and I don't believe they quite have enough energy for the Flamethrower. It is just going to be the Sky Attack, and that's not going to cut it. Opponent sees the writing on the wall, and concedes the match. Annihilate absolutely feasting on these leads, as this game I lead into Celio. They save switch into a Shadow Kingdra, and oh no, this is not an answer to Annihilate. Shadow Counter does a criminal amount of damage to Shadow Kingdra. I can boost up with the Rage Fist, and then just fully farm them down. There's not really anything they can do. Even if they bait with the Swift, I don't know if they're even going to make the Surf here. They don't make the Surf. I exit with a boosted Rage Fist loaded, and in this position, my opponent is going to concede the match. We move to the next match, Shadow Annihilate into Diggersby, and Annihilate was just absolutely crushing it on the lead today. Oh my goodness. I don't know if everyone just forgot Annihilate was a Pokemon, but oh my goodness, team after team just completely disrespected Annihilate, and that honestly made life a lot easier for me. My opponent's able to grab a shield with Scorching Sands, send in a Malamar, but this is not the Shadow Malamar. The regular Malamar is unable to pick up the 2-hit KO here with Superpower. They're going to have to throw 3 charge attacks. Even if they do end up firing off all their energy and winning switch advantage, they're going to be triple debuffed, and if they stayed in Annihilate versus Diggersby, then my Annihilate is probably strong into whatever they have in the back. So, as they win the CMP tie, I'm honestly not too worried. I can just bring back in the Annihilate, and these counters are about to be criminal. My opponent knows that they pivot out, they send in the Diggersby. In hindsight, maybe what I should have done is banked a ton of energy and tried for a Scorching Sands catch onto the Fearow, but in the moment, I decided let's keep Annihilate on the field, and let's just get the Diggersby out of here. So, Diggersby gets KO'd, back in comes the Malamar, and I can look to ramp up my attack with Rage Fist. Rage Fist into the Malamar is going to be shielded. It really seems like my opponent is very, very weak to fighting in the back, but I say, you know what? I'm going to let Fearow close out the game. Malamar takes the knockout, in comes Fearow, it's Licky Licky in the back, and my opponent was hard ABA weak to the Annihilate. I can farm up just shy of the back-to-back Drill Pecks, and Fearow has a surprisingly strong Zero Shield matchup into Licky Licky. The Pecks plus 2 Drill Pecks are actually able to pick up the 2 with KO. So I can shield up the Body Slam, fire off the Drill Peck, and this is going to be all she wrote, as Drill Peck will barely knock out Licky Licky, and we can just peck down the Malamar and take the win. We move to the next game, Shadow Annihilate into Floris. Alright, we're finally facing some adversity on the lead. I'll pivot out, save switch into Fearow, but my opponent will just stay in and debuff my attack with Chilling Water. That's not an amazing spot to be in. Debuffed Fearow doesn't hit particularly hard. My opponent now pivots out, sending in a Shadow Swanna. At the very least, this is still going to do quite a lot of damage because Swanna is very frail. The bad news for me, though, is what is my Annihilate supposed to do into this team? They have a Swanna and they have a Florges. My opponent's going to tank the first, shield the second, and go for a full farm down. I decide that I'm going to bring in Annihilate. If I have any chance of winning this game, it's going to be with Tinkaton being able to sweep, and I can't really afford to take the damage. So, I counter down with Annihilate, but take a massive amount of gust damage to do so. I'm pretty close to a move, back in comes the Florges, and now I can fire off Rage Fist. Rage Fist will be putting this Florges pretty low. Florges now into the red HP. Unfortunately, if I end up no shielding, I'll get knocked out and permanently debuffed on Tink, so I'm kind of forced to put up the shield. Can I get the counter down here? Yes, I can. In the back, it's going to be Diggersby. Oh, they're so weak in the back to Annihilate, but unfortunately, my Annihilate is just simply too low. I can get the shield and pivot into the Tinkaton, but the damage is already done. I'm down energy in the Zero Shield matchup. There's just no path forward for me in this game. Scorching Sands doesn't get the debuff. I can overfarm here, CMP tie Gigaton to the Scorching Sands, but even landing this Gigaton, it's just never going to be enough. Even my bulk weight Annihilate does not have the health needed to win this game. Scorching Sands will take the knockout. Back in comes Annihilate. Annihilate is going to get one shot down. So close, but not close enough, as we will take the loss. Shadow Annihilate into Shadow Hippowon in the next match. Shadow Hippowon is a Pokemon that I actually encountered quite a few times today. It's very cool to see people thinking outside the box, trying something fun, and Hippowon would actually be very strong into my backline, so I'm very grateful to see it on the lead. It's very likely my opponent will go for the Weather Ball bait here, but even if they do bait, I'm very happy just to stay in and double shield with the Annihilate because I need the Hippowon out of here. They're going to go for a double bait. They send in a Lapras. How weak are they to Annihilate if this is the switch in? The Psywaves are adding up. Boosted Rage Fist hits for huge damage. I can bank a ton of energy and then send in the Tinkaton. My opponent will make double Aria, but Tinkaton's able to tank double Aria very comfortably, and I should be able to exit with a massive amount of residual energy. There's Aria number 2, Lapras, barely able to hang on, but with this energy head start on the Tinkaton, I feel like I'm going to be in a very good spot. My opponent's going to wait down the timer, they bring in the Licky Licky, they get the catch onto Hippowon, but luckily, it's not going to matter because the switch timer is now up. I can bring in the Annihilate. I'll be able to make it to the Ice Punch. Ice Punch is going to hit for really nice damage onto this Licky Licky as well. My opponent ends up no shielding. They undertap. I believe they will actually need to go for the Shadow Ball here. The Body Slam won't be enough. Shadow Ball will take the knockout, but I can just go for the full peck farm down with Fearow, as my opponent just simply cannot get to the charge stacks needed. Fearow gets the full farm down and takes the win. Shadow Annihilate into Sableye in the next match. Oh, this is absolutely awful. I save switch into Fearow. Sableye is going to stay in and fire off Foul Play. This is going to do a ton of damage. Fearow is very glassy, and my opponent sends in Hisuian Electrode. This is a very important bait out for me. Hisuian Electrode does have a pretty strong matchup into Tink. However, my opponent is going to get a pretty massive farm down here. I will be able to get a shield advantage, but my Shadow Annihilate is really not going to appreciate getting rocked by a Wild Charge momentarily. Back in comes the Annihilate. I don't really want a shield considering they have a Sableye. I take huge damage, but I do get the farm down. Now, I can just look to bring in the Tinkaton. My opponent stays in with the Sableye. They bank a move, and unfortunately, it's Kanto Ninetales in the back. This is going to be very, very tough. It makes sense that my opponent does have the Kanto Ninetales because they need a strong Tink answer as their final Pokemon. Unfortunately, our Bulldoze does not get the 50-50 debuff, and failing that debuff, I think unfortunately seals our fate. Had we gotten the debuff, maybe we could have gone for a Bulldoze, threatened to knock out, but no debuff means we have to go for the Gigaton. Gigaton lands, they're still able to hang on. I need a catch to win this game, and I don't get it. Oh man. If we got the catch, maybe there was a chance, but unfortunately, the alignment was just too strong in my opponent's favor. They're going to make a second charge stack here as well. I do feel like I did what I could in this game, but unfortunately, we're running kind of a polarizing team, and sometimes games like that can happen. Unfortunately, it's not getting any easier in the next match as Annihilate bleeds into Mantine. I save switch into Firo. Mantine can always fire off the Twister right away, denying my full Peck Sneak because switching out does take one turn. Now I'm always going to be down 2 turns in the matchup. They end up banking just a little bit of energy before sending out Furret. This team is pretty strong into Furret, so honestly I don't mind seeing this Pokemon whatsoever. I overfarm 1 extra Peck and then fire off the Drill Peck. I'm hoping that with the extra damage, Drill Peck will take the knockout. Furret no shields, they fall, and just like that, switch advantage has been secured. My opponent now sends in a Shadow Counter Annihilate of their own, and this could get a little bit tricky. While I do have the health advantage, I'm down quite a bit of energy. If my opponent ever catches a Rage Fist onto the Mantine, I believe that's how they could instantly win the game, so I will overfarm watching for the catch, but the catch just simply does not happen. Instead, it looks like my opponent is going to try and commit to the Annihilate. My counters are suddenly doing a lot of damage, my opponent now rapidly approaching the red HP. I will put up the shield as I go for another Rage Fist, and this time I decide to just undertap. I'm feeling pretty good about Tinkaton's ability to close out the game. My opponent no shields, they're putting it all on the Mantine. Mantine will outpace, we switch into the Tinkaton and get the triple resisted Twister catch, and that's going to instantly end the game. My opponent looks like they're not quitting just yet, they're going to try and play it out to the bitter end, but getting that Twister catch and keeping my Annihilate one off the Rage Fist just completely slams the door. There's just no way out. I guess if my opponent ended up no-shielding like 4 Bulldoze baits, maybe they could win, but we just full-send Gigaton. They end up no-shielding, and I can just farm them down, so they will concede the match. Tough opponent and a tough lead in the next match as I lead Annihilate into Emmy Weedle's Florges. I save switch into Firo, out comes Stunfisk. This is a pretty important bait out for me. Firo with this new pacing this season does win the zeros against Stunfisk, so being able to get a shield advantage out of this matchup should work out pretty nicely. But he's actually playing it very smart here. He's not throwing right away, instead he's just going to look to overfarm. At this point, honestly, he could even go for an undercharge and try and get as much energy as possible, and that's exactly what he goes for. Weedle is just so incredibly good at getting the absolute most out of every matchup, and now, I think I'm honestly in a massive amount of trouble. He's going to get the back-to-back Mud Bombs, I'm going to be very low, and he should just look to pivot out. So, I pivot out as well, sending in the Tinkaton, but it's Seed King in the back. I'm down a turn, and being down energy, I believe there's just no win con for me in this game. I'm going to try and play it out to the bitter end, but realistically, unfortunately, the Annihilate just didn't really have anywhere it could go into this team, and the Seed King being up a turn is just absolutely catastrophic. Seed King is very bad neutrally, but in a matchup like this against Tinkaton, especially being up a turn, it is very well positioned. I'm going to be full sending Gigaton Hammer here, hoping to try and take a surprise KO, but he will put up the shield and instantly go for the Drill Run. All shields are now down. My only way back in this game is maybe going for a catch. So, I'm just going to farm up, go for the catch, but it's a simultaneous switch, Annihilate into the Stunfisk. But man, what an incredibly well-played game from Emmy Weedle. I tried to find a way, dance around, maybe find a win condition, but he just played so perfectly at every turn that there was just no avenue for me to get the win. We move to the next match, and what do you know, we're going to lead into another Hippowon. Same game plan as before, the last Hippowon was very weak to Annihilate, so I'm going to heavily invest in the Annihilate. My opponent will put up the shield. I'm going to shield right back. This is almost guaranteed to be the Weather Ball Rock, but if a Rogue Earth Power landed, that would be catastrophic. My opponent safe switch to Sableye, I respond with the Tinkaton, and I feel like I'm in a very good position. They're going to boost up their defense with Drain Punch. A +1 Sableye is going to be able to tank a Bulldoze like it's nothing, so I full send the Gigaton. Gigaton will be shielded. My opponent calls that out, and the double up here as I CMP tie with the Bulldoze. Bulldoze is never going to knock out, but I know that I will be able to survive the foul play, and all chip damage will be helpful in terms of getting rid of the Sableye. So Bulldoze is going to land, my opponent pivots out, snipes me down with the Hippowon. I bring back in the Annihilate, the counters are adding up, And this is another tough call. Will he go for the Weather Ball Rock? No, he full sends Earth Power, and that should allow me to farm down. I do exit with a ton of energy. They do have a move on the Sableye, but Annihilate will win the CMP tie. My opponent's going to wait the timer, bring in the Sableye, but they win charge attack priority. Oh my goodness. To be fair, I'm not running my attack weight Annihilate, but I have never lost that cap tie before. In the back is going to be Licky Licky. The good news for me is that I should be able to still get the win here because Fearow does do pretty well into Licky Licky. But oh my goodness, I was not expecting to lose that cap tie whatsoever. Licky Licky will go for the Body Slam. Body Slam will put me pretty low, but Fearow will win the CMP tie. And I'm not going to get the knockout here by much, but Drill Peck will just be enough to secure the KO. And I can farm down that Sableye and take the win. All in all, while I did end up going slightly positive with the Shadow Annihilate team, I do feel that there were definitely some holes in the team building that I didn't adequately address. An opposing Fearow is a very big problem for this team, as whether it's a Fearow lead or a Fearow safe switch, this team just doesn't have an answer for it, because all three of the Pokemon would struggle into a Fearow that's up one singular turn of energy. Additionally, this team kind of does struggle into a Tinkaton lead as well. I don't believe I ended up running into any Tinkaton leads, but having to kind of safe switch a Fearow into a Tinkaton would never feel amazing, just because usually Tinkaton leads are going to have some pretty good Fearow checks in the back. But I kind of wanted to have a video that was on theme for the World Championships now that the information is finally on the website and I'm finally able to talk about it, because oh my goodness, having casted in the Pokemon Go Championship Series for several years, being able to work the bigger events like the Internationals or Worlds has definitely been a long-term goal of mine. I've really tried to grind to become as strong of a player as I can, because I feel that the stronger player that I become, the better I'm able to see the game and understand the game when I'm commentating on it to help communicate what win conditions the players are playing for. So to reach the point where I'm going to be casting the World Championships, it honestly feels very surreal. I'm probably gonna have to pinch myself several times between now and the end of August when I actually get to go to San Francisco, but I'm so incredibly excited. Now, if you're someone who's watching this video and you're gonna be attending the Pokemon World Championships yourself, if you end up seeing me there, don't forget to say hi. Honestly, one of my favorite parts about getting to go to events like these is getting to meet all the amazing people in our Pokemon Go battling community. Whether it's people I've battled in the Go Battle League itself, people who watch the channel, whether it's other content creators, like getting to meet the amazing people who help make this community as terrific as it is honestly probably my favorite part of getting to go to these events. I'm just incredibly excited and incredibly grateful for this opportunity, and I'm going to be trying to put in as much work between now and then so I can be prepared as possible for the broadcast to make sure that it's the best Pokemon Go World Championships yet. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching today's video, please do leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide to the channel is so appreciated, so thank you guys so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.